Okay, how many people are still in the room or have their kettles boiled yet?
Just.
Good, excellent. Yeah, mine too. So, our next speaker is Ruth from Sustrans, who's going to talk to us about a couple of Sustrans schemes. And I think, Ruth, I don't know if you want to it's hopefully quite a good follow on from the British cycling presentation as well. We're on a theme here. So, and I know you chipped into that chat conversation as well. So, Ruth, over to you. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Yes, we do cycling, we do walking and wheeling as well. So yeah, it's a good segue into this. So yeah, my name's Ruth Cumming, project officer at Sustrans. I'm actually doing this presentation on behalf of Riddy Calaria, who is our partnerships manager in the West Midlands. She's actually over in Norwich today for a wider team meeting. Our region covers the whole of the West Midlands, the East Midlands and the East of England. So it's quite a big area. So yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. So who are Sustrans? Sustrans, we are the UK charity making it easier for people to walk and cycle. We are custodians of the National Cycle Network, which is a UK-wide network of paths connecting cities, towns and countryside. We actually own less than 5% of this land, but we do look after it, we promote it and we develop it. And we're working with other community organisations and charities to raise ambition for active travel, to demonstrate change on the ground, and to also amplify voices, particularly those who aren't always heard, for change that people want to see through community engagement. We have over 600 employees across the whole country and 3,000 volunteers. So a lot of our work does depend on volunteers as well in the community. So yeah, next slide, please. Oh yeah, it's a bit of a moving one. Okay, so our charity's vision is of a society where the way we travel creates healthier places and happier lives for everyone. And we have two strategic priorities, which are paths for everyone and livable cities and towns for everyone. So the paths for everyone, our strategy for that is a UK-wide network of traffic-free paths for everyone, connecting cities, towns and countryside, like I said before, and loved by the communities that they serve. We aim to make infrastructure that is safe enough for a typical 12-year-old to use unaccompanied. I have one of those myself, so I know exactly what that's like. Yeah, that's a sort of a standard that we aim for, which everyone can access, including people using wheelchairs, trikes, other assistive bikes, and cycles, cargo bikes, prams, buggies, and anything like that. So it's not just for, you know, a sort of standard bike or whatever. There's lots of different people. And the livable cities and towns for everyone strand is about delivering places that connect us to each other and what we need, and where everyone can thrive without having to use a car. So not a car first society, but a society where other modes of transport are more common than that. So the central vision for both priorities is the idea of for everyone. You can see that on the slide there, for everyone. We do this by working to make sure the benefits of walking and cycling and healthy places are experienced by everyone, and also really recognising that the benefits are not experienced equitably at the moment. So how can we work to change that? Okay, so next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a map of our National Cycle Network, or NCN as we call it, in the Midlands region. And we've also got the green spaces on this map as well. So you can kind of see where our network intersects with the green spaces in the region. Our region also covers the east of England, like I said, where Riddy is today, and there are 2,660 miles of NCN in the region. There's still quite a lot of gaps in the connectivity between places though, especially in terms of traffic-free or very quiet routes, which is significant because not everyone feels comfortable riding on main roads with traffic. So we are working to see how we can address that to make that connectivity better. Okay, next slide, please. So this is how we hope to turn the NCN into paths for everyone and what we want to achieve on the NCN. So there's 9 different sort of criteria here that we're trying to work to. And I think for sort of the parks space that we're in today, just to pick out a few, perhaps be designed to minimise maintenance. I'm sure, you know, a lot of this in our on our NCN relies on volunteers. Like I said, we have a huge team of volunteers, so to try and minimise the time that they need to spend on that is really a good aim. Be signed clearly and consistently. I know I often see a lot of signs in parks and other places, and so wayfinding is really important. There's no point having a route if people can't find their way around it. It needs to be fully accessible for all users. So like I said before, it's not just about, you know, will a standard bike fit on it? What are all the different types of mobility aids that people use need to be able to fit well on it, so there aren't barriers that are restrictive, or, you know, it needs to be wide enough, the path needs to be wide enough, needs to be a good surface for them. And also I think quite important, certainly for me in particularly in park spaces, to feel safe. So things like maybe lighting and yeah, how do people feel kind of invited into that space and they want to stay there? So that's just picking out a few. There's obviously 9 in total there. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So it's been almost 4 years now since our Paths for Everyone initial audit report, which stated that a lot of the network wasn't usable or wasn't suitable for everyone. So we've been on a journey to try and improve that, so it really is a network for everyone. There's still a long way to go, but here on the slide are some of the top level achievements for 2021 to 22. We've delivered 12 activation projects. We've removed or redesigned 557 barriers. That's really important ongoing work that I've personally been involved with as well in the region, going out and auditing barriers, you know, measuring them. Are they suitable for getting various mobility aids, prams, pushchairs through? We've delivered 9 miles of on-road traffic-free routes and 1 mile of on-road to quiet way delivered. I'm not sure. I think this is just for our region. That this is what Riddy's given me. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just for our region. A 24% increase in number of users per traffic-free mile, and 63 new community groups involved, which is really important in our work involving yeah, the community and what we do, and helping local communities to connect to the network so that they can use it for, you know, what they want to do in their local area. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the main things that we wanted to talk about today was the Together Fund. And this is funded by, it's a National Lottery funded programme by Sport England, who've awarded a £150,000 grant pot to Sustrans to distribute. It was previously called the Tackling Inequalities Fund, and it's about the here and now, trying to make a difference here and now. Its purpose is to empower community organisations connected to those affected disproportionately by COVID-19 and the associated cost of living crisis that we're now going through, and to engage them in physical activity. Community groups and organisations can apply for up to £10,000 in funding. The average grant is around 3,000 to 4,000, but the maximum is 10. Yeah, and the main thing to stress really is that it's a project that projects that engage audiences in a range of physical activities. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm just going to run through a few slides now about the sort of the criteria for this. So first of all, who can apply for the Together Fund money? It needs to be community organisations or groups that are constituted and meet the organisation requirements. They're located on or near the National Cycle Network in England. How near is it can be up for debate, I think, but the main thing is that they would be using the National Cycle Network for certain activities. So say they were going on a lead ride, they don't necessarily need to be located right next to the NCN, but that they would need to use that as part of a sort of regular ride that they're doing. And they need to be engaged with one or more of the 4 priority audiences. So that is culturally diverse communities, low socioeconomic groups, disabled people, people with long-term health conditions. They don't have to meet all of those 4, but one or more. This can also include schools, religious groups, faith groups, registered charities. Okay, next slide, please. The organisation will need to provide evidence of the following. So a written constitution or governing document. They need to be a not-for-profit organisation. The organisation committee or board includes 3 or more unrelated or non-cohabiting members. The organisation committee or board has equitable distributed decision-making voting rights. And the appropriate safeguarding policies and procedures are in place. Okay, next slide, please. And so what can be funded through the Together Fund? So there's a list here of various things which you can see. And I think the main thing to point out here is capital work such as sort of construction, land improvement or fixed items of equipment can't be funded. And any equipment that is funded must be about the kind of the need to have that equipment now, and the focus is for a specific project, so not just replacing old equipment that's always used, but maybe, you know, if we're using the example of bikes, that that you could buy some bikes for a specific need. Maybe you're engaging with children, so you need some children's bikes for a specific project, that kind of thing. Yeah, and the other things listed here, so staff costs, training costs, hiring, utility costs, IT costs, insurance, all sorts of things. You can ask me more if you have specific questions about these. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how can you apply? We have either an online or a Word application form, which I can drop into the chat if I can do documents, or I can put my email in as well. We also have a PDF with FAQs, so that runs through a lot of, you know, the questions that we've often been asked. But if you have any sort of more specific questions, a specific you know, for your project you're thinking of, then we can provide staff support. There's also the Together Fund email, which is on screen here, togetherfund@sustrans.org.uk. I think that's Amelia who runs that, who also might have come today, but she couldn't make it either. So yeah, she knows a lot about it and she'd be very happy to help. Okay, yeah, next slide, please. So the application form is now open and it's ongoing. So we've had applications already. Some have already been approved, but it's an ongoing process. So there's still time for more. We don't have many applications in the Midlands at the moment, so we're really keen to try and get some from the Midlands. So if anyone has any ideas, then you know, please do think about applying. It will take about 4 weeks to process the applications, and the projects would need to start within 6 weeks of being approved. The funding is allocated and projects will all be approved by the 31st of March 2023. And the project delivery needs to have been completed by the 30th of September this year. And then there will be a final evaluation process after that in sort of October, November. There'll be more details of that when things have been processed. Okay, so next slide, please. And this is probably the most important one for the information that, oh, can't see it on screen now. Okay, never mind. We'll come back to it. It's basically the information about we've got a drop-in session where you can drop in. It's like a Zoom call on Thursday, the 26th of January from 1:30 to 2:30. And that will be hosted by Amelia, who has lots of information and will be very happy to answer sort of specific questions about specific projects. There we go, fantastic. So that's a really key date and time if you can make that, if you have questions for Amelia. And then our contacts, our partnerships managers are Riddy and Dave. So in the West Midlands, Riddy, and in the East Midlands, Dave. Their contact details are also on screen now. They'd be happy to answer questions as well, or direct you to Amelia if they can't answer them. And yeah, they're the sort of more local contacts, whereas the Together Fund inbox is a national Sustrans one covering the whole of the UK. And if anyone has any questions for me now, I would try and answer them. I don't necessarily have all of the answers now, but I'm happy to take any that you might have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Ruth. That was great. Great to hear about a funding opportunity there available to potentially to our members. Again, if people have got questions, please put your hand up or stick something in the chat. Just in terms of that funding opportunity then, Ruth, have you got examples of previous projects that it's worth people sort of looking at, that they could get an idea of what the funding has done previously, or similar schemes?
Sure. Yeah, no, I was in a meeting about this the other day, and as I said, we haven't had much going on in the Midlands, but there was a project in Portsmouth, and it was a community group who were working with refugees and asylum seekers in a couple of hostels in the city, and they found that because a lot of the school places that the children were allocated weren't very close, there were families having to walk quite long distances every day to school and back where their children had been placed. And so what they did was they used the Together Fund to buy some scooters and I think a few bikes as well, and do some basic sort of training with them. And those children, they could then use those scooters to get to school and back, to speed up that journey. And also it just created a kind of a reason for that community to come together and around the sort of the scooting and the walking to school. So that's one example. And then there was also another one, I should say with that also the Sustrans member of staff who was involved in that was quite hands-on. It was something that she'd already worked on quite a bit, but we don't necessarily have to be that involved. So another example was from Bristol, where we weren't that involved, but there was a community group who was already working with I can't remember if it was a specific nationality, it was a youth group anyway. And again, that was just trying to get more children into cycling, and they brought youth into cycling. They did some like bike maintenance sessions, so teaching the youth how to fix their own bikes, give them that skill that might actually then be really helpful for in the future, and gave them a focus. So it's sort of a youth group related to bike maintenance. And they bought the equipment and the expertise in that they needed with that fund.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. Well, perhaps a couple of things people can look up there in terms of previous examples that they can then learn from. That's fantastic. Thank you. Brilliant. Thanks, Ruth. Okay, so we've had green for social prescribing, we've had cycling, we've had walking and cycling and non-car transport, and finally, last but by no means least, tennis. So welcome Anna, who's the Parks Investment Delivery Partner for the LTA. Over to you, Anna.
Hi there, thanks for the intro, really nice to be here. I'm going to start off with a quick apology. Some colleagues on the call will have already seen some of these slides, because I know I've been with them before. So if you have, then and you've got any questions that you haven't already asked, then please sort of whip them through on the chat or at the end. But yeah, apologies if you've seen some of them. So yeah, we're going to talk tennis to finish off your meeting. Next slide, please. So I'll talk about some facility investment and online booking and gate access technology and all those things as we go through this afternoon. But just have in your mind, if you can, that all the renovation works and all the infrastructure works that I talk about, our main aim is to get 1 million more players by 2024. So that's what we're trying to do in every conversation we have, in all the action that we take and the funding we invest. That's what we're trying to do. We've got a real once in a generation opportunity here with tennis. I've worked for the LTA for 15 years now, and we've never had such a great opportunity to get as many more people playing as quickly as this will give us in terms of parks. So we've been working with DCMS and also the Tennis Foundation, and we've got a fund of £30 million to invest in the tennis park infrastructure across the country. So a really fantastic opportunity to work with local authorities in the Midlands to try and capitalise on this as much as we can to get those 1 million more people playing. Next slide, please. So why parks, and hopefully some of the stats there will help inform as to why. But I think really interesting for people that have been involved in tennis a long time was actually when we did the research into this area, is that twice as many people play tennis in parks as do in clubs. So it's a really good opportunity to get new people into our game and picking up a racket. Another interesting stat that 1.2 million kids play tennis in the park environment, and that's only beaten by schools. So that's the only other environment where they play more than in parks. So again, a huge opportunity. Next slide, please. We've done lots of research around what people want from their park venues, so that when we're investing the funding, we're making sure that we're putting what people want and what will make them use it. So a couple of the big things that really came back from that was that if the courts are all looking good and in good condition, is actually that they want social and recreational activities. And really want fun out of the tennis that they're playing. So when we're doing any work with local authorities, alongside the facility investment, actually making sure that there's operators, tennis coaches, tennis operators in place to help local authorities to put on the right type of activity, and making sure that that's really social, really inclusive, and seen as fun by the local community. The other thing that really came out is that people wanting to be able to book online and to be able to book easily. So not something that we've had over the last couple of years. We've brought it in working with local authorities, but we haven't had that online booking system, which is in place now and available for anyone that wants to use it for free. The other thing that came through from the research was that people wanted to guarantee their court. So I know in some park sites sort of across the Midlands region, it'll only be in those kind of 3-4 weeks around Wimbledon, but there are a lot of parks where you have to go down and queue during busy times to be able to get on a court. And actually we found that people would rather just be able to book and know that they've got their court where and when they want it, rather than having to go and queue up on the side of the court for half an hour or so to be able to get a court. So hopefully we've taken in a lot of the insight that we've got from players and potential players and been able to put that into the park strategy. Next slide, please. So we're looking at really transforming park tennis courts across the country and starting to address some of the barriers that we know people have found in terms of accessing their local park. And through the funding and the work that we're doing, we're really looking on focusing on courts in the very poorest condition, which we know unfortunately there are a lot of across the region, and also greater investment in areas of higher deprivation. So with the offer that we've got, there'll be some bits that everyone can get, for example, the online booking tool. And then although 30 million sounds like a huge amount of money, which it is, actually we can't do the amount of courts that we'd like to be able to do. So we've had to say that poorest condition and in areas of deprivation are where we'll focus some of that investment and facility funding. But looking at the online booking tool, promoting through a booking platform that we've got to be able to use, gate access systems, programs and activities, local operators, and then the capital investment programme that I know I've been working with a number of colleagues on the call on already. Thank you. Next one, please. So as I've said, probably don't need to go too much into this, but one of the things that was really quite astonishing to me was that so many people didn't know where their local park tennis court was. So as part of the work that we'll do with you is to really make sure that people know where their courts are and how they can access them, is one of the key things that we're looking at to do. And as I said, the online booking and implementation of that is really helpful in people knowing when they've got a court, what activity they can get involved in and how they can do it. Next one, please. So gate access systems, I've spoken to a number of people on the call about this, and I can send through some information in more detail, but the kind of how it works is that you'd be able to go onto the booking platform, book a court online. It would send you a PIN code to your phone or back on the email. You would go down to the courts and then be able to put the PIN in. Apart from kind of the ease of customer journey and people finding that as a good way to be able to access the courts, actually the court facilities being protected has been a really key addition and benefit when local authorities have put gate access systems in, and actually antisocial behaviour has decreased in areas where this, not in all, but authorities have reported back that where they've had antisocial behaviour, actually this has helped to kind of bring that down, and more activity on the courts has led to local community using them more. So that's been another benefit of introducing the gate access system, along with all the things that it was kind of designed to do in the first place. Next one, thank you. So factors to achieving success, I've spoken through some of these, and obviously the team are here to help and work with local authorities to get the most out of the courts that we can. A couple of things that I'll pick off on this slide is just the free weekly offer to engage local communities. So anyone that's involved with the project will be looking at working with them to put on a free coach-led session for local communities, local families to get involved in, because we know that works and we know that helps introduce people to tennis. We also work with a partner called Tennis for Free, and does what it says on the tin really there. It's a couple of hour weekly session, free for the local community to come and get involved, and for many it might be their first taste of tennis, but it's really good for people to see activity on the courts and knowing that they can get involved without needing any equipment, without needing to pay, so we can just engage them in that way. The second, which has come through a lot of the insight that we've got, is that recreational competition offer. We know a lot of people want to play competitive tennis within parks, and having that on offer and easy to get involved in means that we can really recruit people to the courts, but also then retain them in having something that they want to do and they want to be involved in. Next one, please. So onto the last couple of slides. All of that, really happy to have a conversation around and pick the bits out that might be relevant to you and relevant to your local authority. I cover the West Midlands, and my colleagues Tony Flanders, who some of you may know, and Graham cover the East Midlands. The contact details are on the last slide, so if anyone does want to chat through anything, then please get involved with any of us. East Midlands, just go to both Graham and Tony and they'll tell you who covers which area. But along with all the parks investment work that we've been doing, we've also got a programme called LTA Serves, which some of you may have been involved in and may have know of, and that's taking tennis into local communities. So sorry, just flip to the next slide, please. Serves is looking at targeting young people between 8 and 18, and looking at going into a variety of venues, including community centres, youth clubs, mosques around the region, and this has been working really well. What we're then trying to do with part of the parks programme is linking. So if people have enjoyed those sessions, they can then go to their local park and maybe try tennis for free, or just go down and be able to book a court. Alongside this, we're training up community organisations to be able to become tennis activators, and we've had lots of success in this over the sort of last 4 to 5 years. So that training is available, and again, you may not be able to read because it's fairly small on there, but we'll send these slides out afterwards, I'm sure. We've got a light package, which is 12 weeks of activity, and a standard package, which is 36 weeks of activity, and with that the groups get free activator tennis training, they get free equipment, and it's a really good way to take tennis into new, different and diverse places, but then be able to link it up with park sites if people want to sort of play more often after that 12 or 36-week period is over. And the other thing that we've been working on, and I haven't got a slide for this, so apologies, is our LTA youth programme. So we've got a schools tennis programme that, again, we link in with the parks in terms of that product and programme element, to offer free teacher training to all schools and an equipment pack. So again, something that if you get in touch, if you want to go sort of a little bit further and find out how you can get involved in that. So yeah, I cover the West Midlands, Tony and Graham the East Midlands. Happy to take any questions now, but equally, if you want a more detailed conversation, then we're really keen. The one caveat I will have is we've got till April next year to spend the funding, so we're working really quickly. So if you think you are interested, then please get in touch, because yeah, the money's going pretty quickly. So that's all from me, but happy to take any questions if there are any.
Perfect, thank you, Anna, much appreciated. So again, questions, please stick your hand up or stick them in the chat. Any questions for Anna? Have you, question there from Peter? Yeah, just to confirm, was that April 2024?
It was,
that
yeah.
You got the funding till? Yeah,
yeah,
okay, great. And have you got any examples coming forward from the Midlands at all at this point, or is this a request for? Yeah,
we haven't got a spading ground yet. But we are hoping very shortly that Warwick District Council potentially will be our first West Midlands. I'm not sure about East, but we're hoping that projects will be, we'll get a spading ground. So yeah, not many sort of examples of or case studies yet in terms of the new funding programme, but hopefully shortly there will be. Yeah, I think Alison just put a question on the chat. Yeah, there's no application form, so just get in contact with myself, Tony or Graham if you want to chat through further.
Okay, and in terms of access to courts and gate systems and so on, are you tending to see any resistance to that and the idea that actually free access 24/7 ought to remain? Is there a do you have difficulty anywhere in terms of persuading people, or are people generally pretty open to the idea of putting in gate systems?
There's definitely been some sort of interesting conversations. I think when we've been through it in detail, some of the hesitations that people may have had are resolved, and I think that when you when you see the benefits, they really outweigh any concerns that people have had. And in terms of charging, so some local authorities are bringing in charging policies, but I think it's again, when we've gone through and talked, sustainability is a major issue. So we need to look at how in 10 years' time the courts aren't still in that kind of poor state, and if we invest in them now, how they will be sustainable in the future. Yeah, so okay, we've had some good discussion on that, but I think we've got some good examples where gate systems are already in, and actually we've seen a rise in participation. So when people see the data, that's sort of made the case.
Right. Okay. And a practical question here from Peter about locks and needing power and vandalism issues. Anything worth saying on
that? So in terms of needing power, they're battery operated. So if you haven't got power to site, that's not a problem. We used to need power, but the gate system has improved so that now you just need a battery. There's only one site I know where there's been vandalism at the minute, and it wasn't in the Midlands. So they are sort of as anti-vandal proof as they can be, but obviously there will be times when there are issues, but if I'm really honest, they've been few and far between, and I've only heard of one from our national team where there's been an issue.
Yeah, and I have to say, from my time in Nottingham, I know we put in a gate system at one of the sites there, and it was very successful and worked pretty well most of the time. So Colin, you've got your hand up. You've got a question for Anna?
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a self-indulgent moment. I was just looking to check, Anna, if there's an update on the first
Yeah, there is, Colin. It's all good. Yeah. I'll email you afterwards. Sorry, when I saw your name pop up, I thought, oh, I owe you an email. So yeah, no. Sorry, Colin.
No, that's worries. And just to say as well, and that I can't remember if I brought it up in the meeting last time as well, but we're potentially looking at a management system for the mugger as well. So I can't remember if we'd flag that discussion as well.
No, I don't think so. But
if they could manage the both, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perhaps a project that you can tell us more about in the future, Colin.
Yes, definitely. We'll keep everyone in the loop. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. Stuart, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to say we're working with Graham. We're about to start work on the courts in a couple of weeks' time, I think. So it's quite exciting.
Oh, you'll probably be at Warwick then. Brilliant.
For 4 sites. So we have had some queries about the gates yesterday, but we've done a response. So we're hoping to make the case for them. We've already got gates in the city anyway on other sites, and they've been very successful. So so hopefully it's all going to go well. I was just going to ask about charging. Is charging more or less the same, do you find, across the sites that you're involved in? Is there a similar level of charging, and is affordability an issue for people, or do you find that is working well? It's not a deterrent to people using them.
Yeah, good question. Definitely a hot topic with obviously all of the sort of cost of living crisis at the minute. I've got a slide that Alison, maybe if I send through to you, you'd be happy to send out and to add in just around the impact of charging on local authorities that have done it on sort of lower IMD groups, and actually participation has gone up even with charging being introduced from free. Participation has gone up through all groups, so I'll send that round, and we're gathering more information as we go. I think the key thing is to offer, if that is a concern within the authority, is to offer a mixed model. So there's still some elements of free. There's a weekly free coaching session. There could be 3 hours of courts and some paid 4 hours of courts, so that we get the balance between making sure that it's kind of open access for anyone that wants to play, but also we are looking at that longer term sustainability and making sure that we can keep the courts. So that mixed model seems to be working well.
For people who are sort of regular users and keen, is it worth having a sort of season ticket type option where they get a reduction if they play so many sessions, or is that something that's used?
Definitely. And over in Lichfield, they've got that scheme running at the minute. They actually funded their own project just before this, but at Beacon Park, and I think it's £52 a year for the whole household. So £1 a week for tennis for your household to come down and be able to use and book the courts. Some authorities, I think, are doing that at £35. But again, it's all around, I suppose it's that individual conversation with different local authority, because even different parks in a local authority, some might charge, some might not, depending on sort of what the demographic is around that park. So certainly something that Tony, I and Graham can help with.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Thank you both.
Good luck with your project. Hope it goes. Are you Derby?
Thanks. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
So good. I think so you'll probably be the first one. Yeah, great
quite
stuff.
Exciting. So
brilliant. Really good.
It will work well. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Anna. So I think that's it on the questions today. Thank you very much, Anna, for your time. Much appreciated.
Brilliant.
And thanks to all our speakers today. I hope everyone has enjoyed this kind of theme on sort of healthy parks, healthy people, and we've covered a good broad range of topics, and actually some funding sources there available, which is always nice to see as well. But please, if anyone has got questions for our speakers today, do follow up the contacts they provided. Obviously, the slides from today are already online. Alison's put the link, I think, earlier in the chat, but do look on our website for that. Just to recap before we go, then our next event, so we've got this partnership meeting or webinar with the Landscape Institute in Historic England on the 9th of March in the morning, so look out for the date and the link for that. And then our next Midlands Forum-led event will be the 30th of March in person. Always great to see people in 3D, isn't it, in between the Teams meetings, which will be at Samwell. Sunish and team there hosting that. So again, please do sign up for that when you get a chance. So thanks then again to all our speakers today and everyone who attended. Hope you enjoyed this webinar.
Thanks. Bye all.